Hi everyone, I'm Matt and welcome back to Toylytics, where we take a look at the analytical side of toy collecting. In this video, we're going to look at the secondary market prices for the All-Stars 3 wave of Mythic Legions action figures as of the first quarter of 2024. So let's take a look at the figures that were in this wave. As you can see, we had a couple Motu tributes, Dorina Honoris and Lord Dragul, a couple standard figures, 4 standard figures there, and the Stone Troll 2. This wave was pre-ordered back in spring of 2020 and was delivered to customers late 2020, maybe early 2021, at least 3 years from this point. So these figures are no longer available at retail unless you're really lucky to find one at a retailer out there. But in general, no longer available, and secondary market is the only place to find these. So it's kind of interesting to see how these All-Stars, again, these are all re-releases except for the Motu tributes, of course. Kind of interesting to see how the prices vary there, and potentially maybe informing how the prices for All-Stars 4 and All-Stars 5 are going to change as well as they start to dry up at retail. Although I think for All-Stars 5, we're all pretty much aware that with the mystery boxes that have been recently released, we're probably not going to see All-Stars 5 dry up at retail for a long period of time. I think that's one of the reasons why we had the mystery boxes, because they have so many of those All-Stars 5 figures. So I think those prices are probably going to stay pretty low on the secondary market for a relatively long period of time, even as they dry up at retail. But anyway, interesting to see what happens here for these figures that in their second go around, for most of them, are no longer available. Let's take a look at the sales that we can see, and in general, looking at third quarter 2023, fourth quarter 2023, first quarter 2024, not a whole lot of change here, right? So a lot of the sales per month, pretty consistent. The only one that's, I would say, kind of stands out to me is Dorina, selling 20 units in first quarter of 2024 when she only sold 8 in the fourth quarter of 2023. But other than that, generally seeing a pretty stable amount of sales. Looking at the sales month by month, you can see again general stability here, selling somewhere between 3 or 4 on the low end for most months, up to about 7 or 8 at the high end, maybe above 9 in some cases, maybe below 3 in a few cases here as well. So general, these figures are selling on the secondary market. It's not that they're super hard to find, but not a whole lot of them are selling on a monthly basis. Looking at the average price, not surprising to see the Stone Troll being the highest price, since it had the original highest price, of course. The rest of these are standard figures. Torian, among the standard figures, is basically the winner of the wave, so to speak, at the secondary market prices, because he's selling for an average of $78. Everybody else is really consistent here between about $59 and $63.50. Remember, these are all $50 retail, so they're all selling above retail. Makes sense that that would be the case because they're not available at that $50 price anymore for the most part, but they haven't really taken off, other than maybe Torian a little bit, but even still, that's not too much higher than the retail price. And again, that's average, so some of them are selling for lower than that $78 as well. Looking at the individual sales per figure here, let's look at Baron Volgar first. And you can see here that his price seems to have come down a little bit in the first quarter of 2024 compared with 2023. He was selling pretty consistently for $65 and above for a lot of 2023, but now in 2024, not a whole lot of sales above $65, right? So in general, he's selling for right around that $50 retail price, maybe a little bit higher than that, up to about $65. So if you see a Baron Volgar for that, generally retail or a little bit above $50 to $55, I would say that that's probably a pretty good price. It's unlikely you're going to see much better than that moving forward. Taking a look at Dorina, again, remember we have a lot of sales here in 2024 to look at comparatively to 2023. And in general, her price seems to be increasing a little bit because we have some higher prices up here. Some of them were selling for, high 70s into the 90s in some cases. But in general, she's selling for generally around that $55 to $70 range as well. Maybe a few of them selling for a little bit closer to retail, around 50, and a few used ones here selling for less than 50. But in general, 55 to 70. So again, similar to Baron Volgar, if you see a Dorina for a little bit above retail, probably a pretty good deal, and you're probably not going to get much better than that moving forward. Lord Dragul, a little bit similar story, although he is much more clearly increasing in price more recently here. So back in 2023, he was selling pretty consistently for right around retail up to about $65 to $70. Now more recently, not too many selling at retail. I guess a couple used ones here as well, but a couple new ones selling for right around $50, but most of them selling for that about $57 up to about $70, and again a few higher here in the 80s and 90s, but in general about $55 to $70 for Baron Volgar. So, or not Baron Volgar, sorry, Lord Dragul. So in general, if you see him for right around that $55 price, again, probably not going to see him much better than that moving forward, because more recently people have been paying closer to $60 or $70 for him. Moving forward here, looking at Malleus. Malleus has been pretty consistent in price. Not really sure why that 131 is so high up there. It could be international, because that adds international shipping and always causes the price to be higher than it would be otherwise. But in general, he's been selling more recently. A little, I guess the new one's selling a little bit higher than retail, $55 to $60 or so. In the past, he was able to be found right around retail price, although you can see in 2023, he was kind of settling at that $70 mark for a long period of time. But come November 2023 and beyond, his price seems to have come down a little bit, right? But it seems more recently to be creeping a little bit back up. You're probably not going to find him for retail anymore. Definitely if you see him for retail and you want a Malleus, this might be the time to pull the trigger, but it looks like he's probably in that range of $55 to $60 moving forward into the near future. Next, we'll look at the Stone Troll 2. Kind of interesting prices here, right? So back in earlier 2023, he was selling for consistently above 200 and only above 200. And now more recently, he's been selling only for less than 200, right? So the highest price most recently is 175. A lot of sales here, a lot of loose sales selling for that $130 to $150 range. But even this new one here sold for 131. This one was 134.50. This one was 165. So in general, not a whole lot of sales for the Stone Troll 2, but you should be hopefully able to get one for about 130 to 170 in a lot of cases. We'll see if this trend moves upward in the future, but again, it's hard to establish too much of a trend because just not a lot of sales for the Stone Troll overall. Makes sense because those more expensive figures often don't sell as many copies as the standard figures do. Looking at Torion, pretty significant downward trend here in his prices, right? So back in 2023, he was selling pretty consistently for 90 and above. Maybe a few, in that $70 to $80 range. But now he's pretty consistently in that, I would say, somebody got a really good deal in the $54 here. But in general, he's been around about 65 up to about 85 or so, right? A few figures here selling for the 90s, but general about 65 to 85, and much more recently selling, very tightly in that $70 to $80 range for a Torion. So seems like this may be the time to pull trigger if you see a Torion for around $70 or so, maybe even 75. Just doubtful that he's going to go higher than that, and he was going much higher than that in 90 and above back in July, August, September of 2023. We'll finish up with Zazar, and Zazar here has seemingly, again, pretty stable prices. He seems to have settled sort of in that range of, I would say around $60 to about $80, right? So pretty tight in that range there. A few figures, selling for right around $50 here back in 2023, but in 2024, not a whole lot of sales for Zazar overall, and in general, between about $60 up to $80 here. In general, a few loose ones going for right around retail, maybe a little bit less than retail, but for a new one, it looks like 60 to 80 is the current price, and if you see one for $55 to $60 and you want that blue demon on your shelf to go with as a Hazar, then probably a good idea to pull the trigger. He is definitely more rare than the Azar figure from All-Stars 5. There's many more Azar, the yellow one, running around than the blue ones right now, and the price reflects that. So that is it for our look at All-Stars 3 and the secondary market prices for All-Stars 3 as of the first quarter of 2024. We'll be interesting to take a look at All-Stars 4, which is going to be the next video I'm going to be recording now, as well as other waves too, and how those prices have changed over the more recent period of months. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, like, as everybody says, share, so that you're up to date on the other videos that I post, to keep an eye on all kinds of secondary market prices for Legions and Legions related figures. And I will see you again on the next one. Take care.